Okay, well, after that quick recap, it's time to jump into something else that's pretty exciting, masking. If you've used Photoshop before, this could be something that you've shied away from. If you haven't used Photoshop before, it's great that you're learning it so early. But yeah, like even if you do normally shy away from it and you have used it before, persevere, because if you're doing other things to make selections or to apply effects, masking is definitely the best non-destructive and probably, to be honest, the most efficient tool anyway, particularly when you're wanting to start to make some more complex selections. Masking wins for sure. So what is masking? Think of it as really, I guess, a non-destructive way to make a selection and be able to apply effects or get rid of something or kind of paint over something. Think of it as pretty much making a selection which you can then affect. So, how to mask? The first step is you have to make a selection in some way. That can be using a marquee tool. It can be like going up into select and selecting via color range or via focus, or it can just literally be painting over something, clicking command and clicking on the part that you've painted over, and then converting it to mask and then fine tuning that with black and white brushes within the masking layer. But we'll get to that. I guess to help kind of explain a mask, I've included a few slides. You might be able to see here that's the mask selection. You can particularly see it on the right. And the great thing is, once that little part of the truffle's been selected, you can then choose to apply effects within what's been selected and like without what's being selected. So you can apply effects to the whole image, or you can apply them just to the mask or just to then the inverse of the mask, which is super useful in lots and lots of different ways. But without kind of over-verbalizing things, jump in and open up Photoshop or Accent Photoshop.psd, which is the file that you'll have from before, that Gormisto one that we were playing around with. And then go ahead and open up this Truffle 1 group. What you'll be able to see here is that there's actually a mask already applied to this, which is great. And then there's a few other things, which is like a brush. There's been some effects added to it, and there's been another brush with a different blend mode added to it. So what we're going to do is recreate this from scratch. So if we come over to this original truffle image, I'll turn all these off so you can see what it looked like originally, and that's not even how it looked originally, because as always, if you double click on this, we'll be able to see that there were these different camera raw effects applied to it. So that was the original image, and then that's the image after camera raw. So really subtle, but what's happened is this. You can then see the difference in particularly this blue. If you zoom in, you can see that it's been kind of desaturated quite a bit. Same with this stuff in the background, the chips or whatever it is. And then in particular over here, the wood as well has really been kind of dialed down, you might say. Don't worry, we're going to skip camera raw for now because we've already done that, and you'll already have the image with the camera raw applied to it. So for now, we're going to skip that step, but we'll hit Command J to duplicate that, and then we'll hit Shift Command and the right bracket to take that up to the top of the group. Cool. So we can turn that other layer off, and the first thing that we're going to do is create a new layer, and we'll call that Brush. Because the first step before we even get to masking is fixing up some of the little bits of imperfections here. It's kind of something that you don't need to spend too much time on, but it's definitely good to spend a little bit of time, because you'll see there imperfections there and over that side. But then if I turn those two layers off, and you can see what the final result looks like, it's kind of gotten rid of those, I guess, etches or parts where the kind of the flesh has been cut. This is just going to be really quick, and we're going to use the eyedropper tool and brush. So hit I, and we're then going to hit Control and Option, and we'll hit B, and then hit Control and Option. and drag to about, maybe 10 pixels, and we're going to go for about a 50% hardness brush. And we're going to hit eye just near here, sampling 5x5, and we're just going to dab over that. And we'll do the same thing just down here, select nearby to it so that it doesn't look heaps out of place. And just do it for all these kind of bits on the outside, because, and this part does not need to be perfect, because you'll see once you zoom back out, you really won't even be able to see it anyway. See, it's so small, but it's really just the color that's the important part that we want to fill in. Now, obviously you can take a lot more time with this and be a lot more accurate, but for the sake of right now, and for the sake of learning, it doesn't need to be perfect. Cool, come back over to here as well. Do a few different little blobs. Same with that. Cool. Already, that's starting to look way better. We've hidden a lot of the imperfections. It's starting to look like a perfect truffle, which is great. And then the next thing that we're going to do is duplicate this original layer again. So Command J, and we'll go Shift Command right brackets. We've taken that to the top, which, because that is then now above the brush layer, we're not going to see those imperfections anymore. Cool, next thing we're going to do is create a bit of a selection for here, but we're going to kill two birds with one stone, because what we need to do after this is add a desaturation layer. So if we make sure that we've got a black brush selected, we can hit Shift Command N and call this one Decolor. And we can then hit Control Option with brush selected, and we're going to go for a pretty hard brush. Very hard brush, 100% hard, and we're just going to paint black over everywhere where there's the truffle flesh, like so. Make sure you're not painting over this bit here. If you do, you can then just use the brush to get rid of it, but don't worry, this part, as we said, it can be pretty rough, and you'll see why. If you do go over a little bit, like, it's not the end of the world, like so. And then for this bit down here, we're then just gonna go like that. And make sure you are clicking and letting go of the mouse rather than trying to paint the whole thing, because if you make a mistake and you gotta hit Command Z, it only gets rid of parts of it instead of the whole thing, which is very annoying. Cool. Next thing we can do is, because that's now a layer that we can manipulate, we're going to come in here and we're going to hold down Command and click on the layer itself. We can then come over to this layer here, and you can click this button here, which is the layer mask button, which is great. Now, what you want to do is, before we go any further, because I've set up a hotkey for Command M, because it's not really used for anything else, and it's also M for mask, and masking is something that you do a lot, so you're going to want to have a hotkey for it. So we can come up into File, into Edit, go to Keyboard Shortcuts, come into Layer, open that up like so, and then scroll right down, keep scrolling, past Smart Filter, past New Fill Layer, until we get to Layer Mask. And where it says Reveal All, we're going to want to click in this little box in here, and just go Command M. If you hit OK, it should save the shortcut for you, and then you'll be able to create a mask by clicking Command M, which is great. Yeah. Cool. That has now been selected. Cool. Great thing about that, and now that we've set up a mask, is if you hold Option between these two layers, you can just hit that like so, and what it's going to then do is only affect what's inside the layers. So, for example, if we then come back to this decolor layer and we start painting around the extremities, you're going to see it's not actually going to work, because we've confined it to within this layer by holding Option and clicking there. If I unclick it, you'll then see that happens. Cool. So just as this other layer, we're then going to make this decolor layer a color layer. Lots of color going on there. And then, yeah, we get something that kind of looks pretty nice like that already, right? Like that's starting to look a lot better. We'll come back to this brush layer and we'll hit Shift Command right bracket to take that up to top. No, we won't. We'll leave it where it is. Because actually what we are going to then need to do is fine tune this mask. So we'll come back into the mask selection and hit B. We're going to make sure that it's black and white again. So click this little foreground background thing. And then now anywhere where it's white is going to paint a mask. And anywhere where it's black is going to get rid of the mask. Equally, if we invert it, you can see that it's now white and then the mask part is black. Anywhere where it's black is then going to paint it. So don't worry about inverting it. Leave it as so. Make sure you're clicking on the actual mask itself. And then, yeah, we can come in here and fine tune it. So we're just going to want to make sure that all these little parts that are coming up as brown are included in the mask. So it's like so over here, like that, like so. There's some stuff going on up around there. Yeah, that's starting to look pretty good. A little bit down there. Cool. Might even paint over that bit as well. Alright, that's already starting to look a lot better, right? Like, think about it. We started with that, and then we've now added some little brush strokes. We've added a bit of a decolor, and we've added a mask. So that's without the brush strokes, that's with the brush strokes. Already that looks great. However, I then kind of want to darken this, because if you've never seen the flesh of a truffle before, that's too, like, it looks fake, right? Like, the white's kind of okay, but the black kind of part of the gleaver, the flesh inside, looks really, really fake. So what we're then going to do is add a new adjustment layer for brightness and contrast. We're going to take that brightness down till maybe about like there. Yep. However, we don't want to affect the whole image, we just want to affect the inside of the truffle, so we can then hit Option again and confine it to within the truffle. Okay, that looks fake, right? So we'll take it up a bit, maybe like that. And then what we are going to then need to do is come back in here and fine tune the other parts of the mask, which is fine. Like, that's what's so great about then that we've used a mask, because we can then fix that up. I might speed up this part of the process, but feel free to watch it because it'll be pretty useful. Okay, cool. I'm a bit happy with that. And yeah, as we said, it's fine. Like, this isn't how it's going to look in the end, but it's it's been selected, and it's already starting to look a lot better than what we started with. Cool. So maybe we'll dial the brightness up a little bit, so it's going to look a bit more as like what we started with. So kind of negative 55. Oh, not negative 55, just negative 55. And then we're then going to add a contrast layer over the whole thing, because at the moment it's still looking a bit washed out. So the way to fix that is with contrast, and then also that'll bring the blacks back into this. So we'll add another brightness contrast layer, leave the brightness as so, and then we'll bring the contrast up, which is going to kind of kill two birds with one stone. It's going to bring back this black color to looking more like what's going on the outside here. And it also brings in a lot of the information in the background. Cool. We can name this layer darken like it is below, and then name this top layer contrast, so that we know what they're doing and what's going on. But already, if you look at that, we can create a new group out of this called Truffle 2. Make sure you select all of the layers and then hit Command G. Truffle 2. And then now's the real test. We can then turn all of these other layers on in the background and then turn that one on and off. Cool, so it's pretty close, right? Like, we did a pretty good job. There's probably a few things that are a little bit different, like the mask originally was a bit more precise. darken and contrast, negative 55 and 100 for that darken layer, so we can probably turn the contrast up for that one. And then yeah, it's just then the kind of extremities, they're pretty different, but yeah, like if you look at it, it's for what's then going to be used, kind of zoomed out quite a bit on a website. It looks pretty good, and we've done a pretty good job compared to the original one, which took me a bit longer and I did spend a bit more time going through it. But yeah, the method's definitely there, and we've definitely had to play around with masking. We'll learn some more masking later on. But yeah, I guess if you need to take your time and do this a bit slower, that's great, and have a play around with it. But yeah, for now, that's a very brief introduction to masking.